I would love to hear how you guys found ZenCleanz and your first experiences with the cleanses or even just the products in general and what was really alive for you during that.
Okay. Do you want to start? I mean, we've had Zen Cleanse on our radar for over a year now, right? We've had different people, coming up to us and sharing us about Zen Cleanse, but we didn't quite, jump into it yet. We were just kind of feeling it and doing some research on our end. And then what really was it that made us jump into it?
I don't
Do you
remember.
remember?
The thing for us is that we typically don't work with supplements or things like that. We just work with food and fasting. But the idea of Zen Cleanse that I like is, of course, it's just made out of food to begin with, and there's nothing weird about that. And I like the idea of the concept, basically, of what it can do for you and how it's put together. And what I mean by that is, we know how to achieve, the cleanse of, the mucoid plaque in different ways. They are perhaps not as approachable for people. You see what I mean? Because not a lot of people like to do enemas or they don't like to do fasting,
Yeah.
And so we feel that, when we came across Zen Cleanse, I was like, oh, that's a great opportunity to do like a very deep cleanse in a way that is approachable for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we decided to try it ourselves first. But color intuition or what, but it felt right.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? There's a lot of companies out there doing a lot of things, and I don't know if because ZenCleanz is a smaller company so far and doesn't feel very corporate and pushy, and it feels nice. So there was a good feeling about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we felt called to start with, and
we had a dear friend of ours who trusted as well, and she was like, Sarah, you and Emanuel got to try this. Like, you got to, I know you're not into supplements. I know you're not into doing these things, but you got to try it because, what we do, like we said, what we can accomplish, can take longer, a month or 2 months, right? And like you said, not a lot of people are going to want to sit and be on this, raw fasting diet for that long. And then so when we heard that the results that she was getting, and then from other friends that were talking about it, we're like, okay, let's go with this feeling in our intuition and try it out.
Yeah, I think, from our experience, we work primarily with raw fruits and vegetables. And, a raw vegan diet is not for everybody. We help people transition. And we do a lot of different detoxes for the organs with the diet, so each fruit has its own purpose and it goes into each organ and yada, yada. Now, what we noticed is, like she's saying, the approachability of it, and reading through the website, also the preparation of it. They talk a lot about eating more fruits and vegetables, and they propose like a fasting period. So that aspect of how they prepare and how they promote more like something is more in alignment with the diet that we already work with the people that we work with. So being plant-based and all that allowed us to understand that there was something that we resonated with as well on that level. Okay. Yeah. So do you want to share about your experience doing it?
Sure. I mean, what I really enjoyed about, in particular, the intestinal 1 cleanse, your first one, is that it was very gentle. Okay. I've done so many different types of, protocols and fastings and whatnots where it's actually, I'm going through it, right? And you're going through the different hercs, die-off symptoms and the pains and the emotional releases and all the above. And I felt that with these particular enzymes, it was like this mother holding me, and it was very gentle. And I didn't have to go through the struggle. Okay. But I still had the results. Okay. So I still had the results even after, 2 days, and then the plaque released. It wasn't anything painful or horrific, or, I had to be down for 2 days and lay in bed. It wasn't like I was lethargic. I actually had energy. I felt like I was getting fed at the same time as I was cleansing, which I really enjoyed that about this, is that I felt like these enzymes are so smart that it was going to the places that I needed within my body to be healed and, you know, filled up. Right. So it was pretty gentle and overall a really great experience for myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me?
It's killing you?
No, I was impressed with the accuracy that ZenCleanz explained how the process was going to be. And to me, that shows me that they have a lot of experience doing what they're doing. Because, I mean, of course, after holding a retreat for 20 people have different, you know, reactions or experiences. But they, during their explanation of how everything was going to go through and what was going to happen and everything, it's clockwork. So for me, I had the typical experience that they describe on their manual, you know, so it was exactly to the T, like beep, 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 and I go through this at this time, and after this is going to happen this, and so it was like completely mapped out. And I really appreciated that because to me, and again, I know it's not everybody goes through it the same way, but for me, it was like if I myself was writing that down as I was going through it. You see,
they're reading your mind and
yeah, I mean, it was that so I was very impressed by that. Of course I was impressed by you know, we're being, you know, doing raw foods and in the healing world for somewhere between, you know, 10 years on the food aspect plus 15 years on the, you know, in the emotional and spiritual aspect of it, and working with something like that, it was easy to navigate the mental and emotional aspect of it. You see, they are powerful enough to get the job done, but they're gentle enough so you don't go through a traumatic experience with it. Okay. And so, I mean, given the fact that we have seen people, you know, go through all kind of stuff, but that's because perhaps they didn't prepare properly and you know, things like that, and we can talk about that after. But my experience with it was that I felt that I was doing this with somebody that had a lot of experience, because I was going exactly through what they were talking about, you know. And even though I have done gazillion cleanses, of course something comes out, because always something comes out, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot more than that. And there's always more. You know? And you're like, okay, I've done this, you know.
Where are these hiding?
A decade of cleaning up, and there's more to come, you know, but it's okay. And that's cool. And so, and that's kind of also the part of, like, you know, we share with people, there's always more. But that was my experience. I was really happy with it because definitely on the personal level, I've been, you know, having some difficult aspects, and I think that really covered one of them really well. So definitely good.
Yeah. So how did your experiences lead into leading a retreat? Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
Want to start?
Well, we've been leading retreats for a long time. And so for us, Zen Cleanse was, you know, adding to what we already do. See what I mean? So we hold retreats just for the emotional and spiritual side. We hold retreats also for cleanses that, you know, that we do with people, with raw foods and everything else. So it's not something that holding retreats and holding groups for us was new. We just thought it was a great tool for people that, honestly, when with our first retreat, we had people that has been working with us for 10 years and people had never seen us before. And it was great because everybody got something out of it.
Yeah.
And that was the cool thing about doing this type of cleanse, right? Which I have people that I've been working with that they have done, you know, 100 days of juice fast, and they are way past what they somebody, you know, they never done a cleanse before in their lives. So of course, the person that had never done nothing and they barely prepared, you know, they were having a heyday, right? They were having diarrhea, they were having headaches, one of them puked, stuff like that. Yeah, because they were very clogged up, right? And then but the people that have been working with us for a long time, they also saw how, even with, like we were just mentioning before, the amount of work that we have done over the years, there's still something coming out. So sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, to answer more of your question as well, is that, once we did this, we intuitively knew, going back to that intuition, is like, we gotta do a group of people, like bring this into our already existing retreats. Okay. So we could use this as a tool to help navigate and help push out the emotional process. Because for us, it's really, how can we get these people to sit down? How can we get these people to get their mind clear, to go into their hearts, to go into their belly, and actually recognize and witness and feel the emotions that they're having? And so if you're fasting and you're fasting on enzyme, and that's already provoking that within the body, then it helps that emotionally as well. So when we're in these retreats, they're taking the enzymes, but they're also, having that emotional experience, and we're helping them work through, like, oh yeah, I am having nausea. Oh yeah, I am having a stomach cramp here. Okay, well, let's go there. Let's take you to that place. Why you have, that stomach cramp, why the mucoid plaque decided to stick there. You know what I mean? There's always an emotional underlining, right? And so we work with that aspect, and we work with the spiritual aspect too. And so this was just an added bonus. And it really went over well, because our last retreat had over 20 people. We had people online, we had people in person, and they were all able to do this together and support each other, while we were helping them at the same time, helping them guide them, and answer their questions, as well as take them on a journey spiritually.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about the retreat setting is people have questions regardless. People feel a little intimidated about it. I'm going to be taking all these things that, they just open the box and they see all those things. And especially for somebody who has never done a cleanse, they're like, oh my goodness. And they are concerned. They're going to be feeling pain. They're going to be feeling, they have a lot of concerns. And that the group setting and having somebody, I think, to have like us, that we've been doing detox for gazillion years, they have an easy way to say, hey, what am I going through? Is it okay? You see, they need a little bit of that, taking them through the experience, just from the visceral concern about what's going to happen to them, to the anxiety about, is it coming yet? Is it coming yet? Because they all want to see the mucoid plaque, and they all want to see it right away. And we're like, okay, just hold a little bit of that space of patience, and that, I think, really helps them to go and do what we like to do, really. And what Sarah was mentioning is how to tap into the emotional aspect of it, because we know how much, basically, not just ailments are related to our emotional baggage and load, but taking it more to a simplistic space of emotional eating. And we always tell the story about the guy and the girl that they break up, and they don't go for juice and salad, they go for burgers and pizza,
and wine,
and so
calling my girlfriends and watching junk movies, and
chocolate,
stuffing their face with chocolate and bread.
So all that work, during the retreats, we put people through a lot of meditations, and we hold a space actually of introspection, instead of taking the enzymes and being online all day and watching movies and zone out. We tell people, take this time to actually retrieve all those memories. Let's work through them, so that way we don't have to repeat that again. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves here again over and over and over. You're going to find yourself going for junk food again once the same emotion gets triggered. And so to break those patterns, we need to address really the source of them and where they're coming from. So we wanted to give people a little more than just, okay, I'll do a cleanse and be happy, right? And that's kind of like the ABC of what we do, which is the emotional and spiritual part. And when we combine them together with something like ZenCleanz or the other the food aspects that we do, it becomes 10 times more powerful.
Mhm.
You know, and there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide unless
can't
you
go
really want
anywhere.
to.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Which we
So
try. They try.
it's reality check time. So we understand also that's not for everybody. And we understand that some people just want to do it on their own, you know, zone out, cleanse, and then, you know, deal with the problem later. That's fine. You know, there's space for everybody and there's room for everybody. And there's nothing wrong with any of the alternatives, right? But that's how we feel that we can help people the best.
Yeah. I also want to share this too. What I like about Zen Cleanse and actually doing this cleanse itself is that you don't have to be on any specific diet for a long time. Like you could be a meat eater, you could be vegetarian, you could be raw foodist, whatever it is, you can do this cleanse and you're going to have results. Okay. And what I also like is that this is kind of like a catalyst for people that possibly, you know, like I want to go vegan or I want to go a raw foodist, but like I cannot because there's something stuck in my gut that I can't, like I literally cannot absorb the fruit and the vegetables. And so this is kind of like that push that can help them actually, you know, withstand, you know, a raw food diet, a vegan diet longer, right?
Yeah. And even if their goal is just to step away from just junk food, you know, doesn't matter, you know, whatever that is, as long as there is an improvement on that or willingness to say, oh, you know what, I want to have a better life, you know, and I don't want to feel like crap. Yeah. So people ask me all the time, you know, when we started doing this work and we will put people through their emotional release and all this, people were like, you know what, they will call me a week later, I don't want to eat that stuff that I used to eat anymore. You know, and that's really how we got into the food aspect of it, because the emotional aspect was the locomotive for it. That instead of fighting it on the opposite direction, saying, you know what, I need to convince myself, I need to educate myself. There's gazillion people talking and everybody's happy out there. And there's people that eating, you know, tree bark for all I know, and they're happy. And I don't care. Right. So as long as they're happy and healthy, just go eat the bark. Because there's, you know, we don't, I don't know, I'm not God to say who they should be eating or not. Yeah. As long as they're happy, right? And as long as they want to have a better, less self-destructive behaviors in a way, right? And people sometimes don't correlate self-destruction with what they're eating. So yeah.
And it's really interesting how different people have different experiences. You know, we had one person sharing that they're like, oh my gosh, I felt like the devil was coming out of me, you know, like, oh, I can feel God more. The devil was coming out of me. Or, you know, like Justin, who is, when, you know, he's at how many, 16 years raw foodist. He said, you know, 100 days juice fasting, 30-day water fast, the whole nine. And, you know, the amount of plaque that he pooped was, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Yeah. So it's really interesting how everybody has very different experiences. You know, there's some other people I know that even after that retreat, like they like made a big life change. They had so much clarity that like, oh, I got to do this. I got to change this in my life, you know? So it was an instantaneous thing that happened.
It's just like that. Once that stagnation is out of their body in their life, that is anything that is stagnant that matches whatever that was in their life also goes, you know. So a lot of life changes. And I think one of the things was really interesting as a result of it, and the combination of these meditations with the tranquility and the introspection and the push of the toxins and the plaque out of the body, was a lot of people felt their own self more in a way. So we were able to bring them back in. It's like, oh, hi, I haven't been here, you know, in a minute. So they became a lot more intuitive, a lot more in sync with themselves. And I think that was a great takeaway from most people, because they felt like they clicked with themselves in a lot, you know. There's a reason why they call the gut the second brain, you know what I mean? There's a lot of influence into our thought process on what's going on there, even though people don't believe it, but some are starting to, fortunately. And so I think it can help on, decision making, later down the road, not just on the food aspect, but, in being a more clear machine here, so.
Let me ask.
That's really interesting. I actually didn't know. Did you know that?
No.
I didn't know that aspect because, one of the things that we were.
I saw that it said that there was something about Buddhist monks, but
Yeah, I didn't.
on the website, but I didn't read a lot. That's all it says. There's something about the Buddhist monks.
Yeah. Do you want to share with her about one of our main practices and how we work in that similar aspect of what we're doing on the background with these people?
Well, there's some things that I think they can be correlated to some of the Buddhist practices, I would say. Like when we go into the meditation aspect of it, instead of, there's a lot of meditations out there, but I've heard that one of the Buddhist techniques is to do a lot of short meditations to kind of keep people in the zone. And that's how they teach them how to meditate, because you can't go deep right away if you're not a meditator. It takes time to train the mind, right? So what we did, and I heard about that, but that's kind of something that we did, was to chop it up into many meetings, so to maintain a meditative introspective zone. So that way it was not like a one moment of it's like a big emotional explosion, even though we had time for that and we did that. We used that as a space that whenever people needed. And the cool thing about the retreat was that at any moment, different people, you see them coming out of their process. You see, they come back into the meditation circle, and then they go back, and all of a sudden they don't show up for 1 or 2 meditations because they're processing, and they come back and they're like, and they're ready because, they just, has something. And then all of a sudden, somebody ends a meditation and, they can go and they stay on the back for a while and come back, in their own room. So, but that's, I think, one of the correlations with that she was talking about, that we heard that is one of their ancient methods, is how to. So that's what we did. Small, constant, to keep a union space, right?
And to keep that same, that frequency, not be talking about negative stuff and pushing. It's like,
you don't want everybody to just hug and become a ball of depression, right? So it is about understanding how it's always a process, right? So you go through it, you go to your deep, and then you come out, and it's good. So there's a lot of aspects, about the retreats and how we put them together, because we've been doing this for so long. So we have a way to navigate them, to help people, explore them without becoming too difficult either, and how to rise up and how to retrieve the information, and how to step on that, forgiveness and love and gratitude space, as it transforms and as they release that as well. So anyhow.
And I think she asked us if we're gonna do more, retreats like with the liver, and that has definitely been our intention. And how
we're having our radar, what we're doing is we're working on the spiritual practices that we have, and how we put them together with the cleanse, and how the cleanse affects the person, and what is going to come up emotionally and mentally for them. So once basically what we're doing is we're going through them ourselves, understanding them, and then that way we can help people in a larger situation. But
How
so
did
yes,
you guys? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so yes, in the future, we'll definitely have something,
we're thinking about something for the rainbow, but definitely something for the
flow for sure, and the forgive for sure, right? Either rainbow or forgive. But those are definitely.
The liver is a forgive.
I know,
but I don't. We're working on that.
We're not quite there yet, but it's coming.
Nice.
It's coming.
We'll see what comes up.
I was gonna ask, everyone has their unique experience. So how did you guys work with people having different experiences, like nausea, severe headaches, or any vomiting? Like, people are sometimes like, I don't want to continue, I don't want to go. But of course, I know in a retreat space, it's different because it's like everyone's still showing up together. But did you guys have any experiences with people having like more detox reactions?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Like I was telling you, we have people vomiting, have people with diarrhea, shivers and stuff like that, So I think that particularly is where the retreat setting is fantastic. Because when people are on their own, trying to go through a Telegram chat, I can see that somebody will say, you know what, this was not good for me, or I'm having a bad reaction. Stop the cleanse right there. See what I mean? They might not want to finish it. They might not know how to navigate all the symptoms. They might not know how long they will take to subside. And so I think that's where our experience on detox and raw foods comes into play. That when people go through that in the retreat setting, they feel that there's somebody right there at reach that they can say, hey, I'm going through this, what can I do? Right. And so we had several people, of course, some with a lot more intense reactions, and some people are just like, hey, is it gonna pass or not? You know what I mean? So of course, from anything between that and that spectrum, I feel that one of the biggest takeaways was for them, and they all told us that was to have somebody right there that I could just, be there for me. And because not everybody has a detox experience, not everybody has done it. And even though the people that have done it before, they might be like, well, this is the first time I'm doing it. Maybe the second one they're going to do on their own. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But the first one, and just to have somebody there, they can tell you, hey, it's going to be okay, or this is normal, or hey, maybe take a break and start in a couple of hours again.
Yeah.
See, understanding that and how to navigate that, I think people appreciated it quite a bit.
And them just being heard too, them be able to share their feelings, like, okay, this is what I'm going through. I think that's really important for them, just to be heard and held, from a non judgment space. It allows them to put down their barriers and to just surrender even deeper, because they know they're in a safe zone. Sometimes when you're at home alone, you're like, okay, I've got my, my friend over here or my mother over here. Okay, how do I navigate this? Like, you're in a space where you're being held and you're safe, which I think is
either being alone or being around somebody that you don't want to be
doesn't work
around. That doesn't work that well. And honestly, I think what you just mentioned, I think was really important, which sometimes the emotional process is so intense that affects the psychosomatic in a level that the body's holding strong, and all of a sudden to have a space where they can go and have that emotional release, and then all of a sudden, they go to the toilet and poof, it's gone, right? So to be able to navigate on that space, I feel like it was crucial. And a lot of people nowadays, they have a hard time navigating their emotions. We're in a very cold-hearted world, in 2023, and people have a hard time navigating, their hearts and their emotional load. So that it's, within as much it was good for them to have that, hey, what's going on the physical level, they needed that other side as well, and the kids are awesome.
And the kids are, yeah. I was just waiting for that. I was like, oh, they've been so good. They've been so good.
For the final goodbye.
It was kind of perfect because he just had to share with me his feelings. Aww. And now he's okay. It's like in the retreat, they come out of the room, they gotta cry and say, this is what happened to me. Okay.
And then they go,
are you all right? Okay. And then they go and they're fine, you know? So it was actually
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you, Francis, for, you know, putting the play on so everyone could see it in real time, how it works.
Yeah, it was a good
retreat.
demo.
Good demo. I'm gonna, you know, I gotta pay him later. He's actually an actor. So we worked that one out well. You know what I was going to share though is that one of the things that we do for these people who actually get onto the retreats with us is for at least 2 weeks, they automatically go into what's called our foundation practice, called Reconnecting to the Heart. And so for 2 weeks, they're getting to know these tools and these practices to help them actually navigate in a good way in that retreat setting. I call it like massaging them into the retreat itself, you know, so they're not walking into it going, what do I do when this comes up? No, we're giving them these tools and we're allowing them to step deeper into their heart and actually rise the frequency and the vibration within their body, right? So we do that prior to actually starting the retreat.
So it's much easier for them to retrieve those messages because we've been training them for about 2 to 3 weeks beforehand. So that is not a foreign concept of coming in and exploring that emotional side and starting to crack it open and to receive information, retrieve information from there. So it's not like, oh, you know, I'm going to the toilet and you want me to meditate at the same time, you know, and that doesn't work, right? So they're gonna be like, listen, man, there's only one thing that I can do right now.
Yeah.
So I'm passing plaque. But you know, because we do that preparation with them, when they show up, they understand the meditations and the practices, and they are already in a more receptive space for that emotional work to happen. So I also feel they have a much better experience, you know, and they can, you know, we were talking about earlier about, you know, breaking food patterns and habits and yada yada. You know, that helps quite a bit instead of just showing up and say, well, you know, we're going to get all that information out of you right now. No, it might not work, right?
In that way.
So we slow them into it.
We slow them into it
for a couple of weeks before, and they get better results that way.
Yeah. And some people have been doing it, you know, for a longer time. Like we've had a lot of, you know, people that have been working with, like you said, for years, you know, so they jump into the Zen and like they immediately can just retrieve information because they're like, aha, it's working here. And it becomes much easier for them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, and you got your papa here and your mama here. So he's the dad of the group. And I'm like, okay, come here.
She's the mommy.
And I'm the mommy, you know, which people need that. You need that father figure that's going to come and tell you, no, you got to keep on going. You got to do it. And then you need someone that's going to support you even and, you know, massage your back a little bit.
Usually she does more the emotional aspect of it. And I take more on the questions on like, hey, what kind of enzyme is going to work my liver, you know? So we also tag team on that. And usually when people have more physiological questions, I try to answer them the best way possible, of course, within my limitations. And then when it comes to the emotional aspect, she's the pro. And then she can handle it pretty good. Yeah, she can dig anything out of you.
Yeah. We're gonna
that's amazing.
Out of you, exercise it out of you.
Anyhow.
The exorcisms. That's true. And you could tell them, I mean, 100 times the same thing, and they'll still ask you, you know, the same question. You say, this is what it is, read this, and they won't read it. It's like until you're in front of them, like you said. And
well, and the cool thing about the retreat center is that we don't have peanut butter jars all over.
Yeah. No, there's none of those temptations. They're just not allowed.
But you know, because you don't have anything at hand, people can't just like go and grab it. Of course, people at home can, but when people are in person there, they're like, okay, you know, I'm getting hungry. I'm like, good for you, you know. And then you know, then it's easier to get them into that space where you're talking about. I'm like, okay, well, you know what, let's explore that a little bit. And if you are, of course, you know, sometimes we have extra enzymes for them to drink, which is great. So, okay, now bring some more enzymes, you know, or things like that, you know. But definitely the temptation aspect of it, of wanting to numb that emotion with the food right away to stop the process in the retreat setting is gone. And that's one of the best tools, because also by being in a group setting, you have that accountability and that synergistic energy that everybody together going with is like, I'm fasting. Whoa,
We're all
that's
doing
fast.
it.
You know what I mean? I mean, you just go with a group instead of like, well, it's been very easy to just, walk to your fridge, and you cut out the process. So
Yeah.
that is definitely a plus, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, the redundant questions, even during the retreat, within 3 days, I answer the same question maybe 20 times sometimes, because everybody, through the different time of the day, and they were not paying attention, and maybe after the meditation they were into their process, and so you see it constantly. Oh, I'm sorry if you answered this already, but can you talk about again about this? And it's fine.
And
it's fine
normal.
because then not just normal, but people, they get a different layer of that conversation, and it goes deeper or more shallow into different people. There's always a takeaway from it by repeating it. So it's fine, and actually works pretty good. So there's not an issue, but the temptation definitely is and the group synergy is a huge factor for sure.
It really is.
But I don't know. I love that, the good thing about Zen Cleanse is people can just go home and just do it. You know what I mean? They truly don't need us.
Yeah.
You see, to get results. The enzymes, they speak for themselves. Now, what we do is an extra step, you see, of working all that stuff. So we have had many people come to us and say, hey, can just do this and not join the group. I'm like, of course. Absolutely. Here, go for it. Take as many enzymes as you can, because we know that they will get benefits. See, regardless of doing it with us or not, the benefit is unquestionable.
Yeah.
Really.
And it's like you said in the beginning, it's so well written out, and just how to do it and describing it in the steps is like, you can't fail. Like you can't. It's like, set your alarm. Take this at 12. Take this at 12. It's like
you have to have a lot of candida in your brain in order not to be able to get it.
Yeah. So it's really it's self-explanatory. It's really, really well put together, and
thought out.
And we felt that too. And we talked to Daniel, and just like everything, his background, everything that he's done, and just that level of expertise to,
he's not another random dude.
He's not a random guy. He's like somebody that you trust. Like we
can tell he knows his stuff. He knows.
And we talked to him, we're like, we trust this guy. Like, he doesn't have to pitch himself to us. He doesn't have to do. He's just like,
you can tell he knows his stuff.
He does.
That's okay. Well, the story goes that about 10 years ago, when I first went raw foodist, and I was doing all these cleanses, I developed a very acute palate, and it was very easy to distinguish the nutritional value on the different products that I was eating, and right away I was like, okay, this is lacking minerals, this is lacking vitamins, this is lacking enzymes, this is even in, and so for a long time, when I was teaching the retreats or even doing one-on-one with people, I was explaining how organic food is almost almost to the acceptable level of what it should be. It's below what it should be, as far as nutritional value and content and all that stuff. And so that led me to like a whole journey of a parallel study from health and the connection with the spiritual emotional, that was my beginning for so long, and go into growing the food. And it took me a long time to find people that actually knew what they were doing. There's gazillion permaculture courses out there and yada yada, and I needed something to the next level. The same way that you found Daniel to be your mentor, and you found something that would blow your mind, kind of like the same. It took me a minute to find people that grow food the way that it should be done, to the next level. The people that learned to grow food by listening to nature, basically, and by mimicking the dynamics of nature, instead of trying to develop a new product that will save the day or a new whatever. because that's where people are into. They're into the products, they're into the cells. This guy was like, nature has the answers. Nature knows better than anybody else. I'm gonna just sit back and watch. So there's no dependency of any type of product whatsoever, neither irrigation, neither nothing. So that's kind of like and they have like decades of doing that. So they're not like, they just went there and started this yesterday. Neither they have that it's not a romanticized idea either. They make their living of farming. So it's not something that, well, it looks cool, but I don't make my living out of that. You see, they make really well with what they do. So it's a well-proven way of doing it. So, but anyhow, that was kind of like the journey into it,
Yeah.
So definitely there's a big part on what we do about not only pushing the minimal standard that organic food is, but really to take it to the next step where it should be, and working with people in agriculture on that level as well. And there's a spiritual aspect of it as well, where we have been really disconnected from nature in our daily life. We just go from box to box to box. It's a little computer box, a little phone box, to a little car box, to a little house box, to a little office box, and we're just from box to box to box, and be like, okay, how about here, grass, trees, air, go back to that a little bit, and remembering that we're not in a lunar base, we're here on Earth, and our body belongs to Earth. So within that, when people engage in observing nature and growing their own food, there's a lot of things that click over here, and start changing in the mental and emotional and spiritual level as well. But that's a whole other probably big chapter in conversation that we could have one day. But yeah, maybe I'll send you a link of the people that I learned from, so you understand what I'm talking about. Because the day that I watched that video is the day that changed my life, and that's the day that I saw that. I had to get in contact with them, and I had to learn from them.